What time is it? It's nation time.
Greetings, Bishop and Wendy. It's been a while. It's good to be here with you today.
Yes, brother. Good to see you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed viewing this sermon and listening to it. A few things that came to my mind. Of course, there was a lot. But we live, considering the times we live in today, which seems to be a time of increasing fear, that accomplishments that we've made, things that we've gained and obtained I can easily be taken away. It
Yes.
seems like it's more like that now than it's been. And for me, this suggests that it would be extremely difficult to shift from a focus of fear to gratitude, because to me, gratitude can replace fear, but making that shift can be difficult.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I think when we start looking more and more at gratitude in terms of something that is like Jeremiah mentioned, I think in his sermon, like it's a discipline, right? Not only that, I think it's more about intentionality as well, that whatever we decide to feed is what's going to grow. And so we have to make these conscious efforts to find something for which we are grateful. And when we are able to do that, it is a mind shift, a mindset, right? That we bring to any situation, but we have to be conscious of that. It's like because we can be engulfed in all of the confusion, because this system is designed to have confusion on top of confusion, which really sucks the lifeline out of us. It has the potential to do that if we're not intentional about finding something as a discipline again to say for which I am grateful, and which then elevates our consciousness so that we can get above the noise and actually find out what it is that we can actually do to make a difference in the world in which we live. So the conditions are not going to just change, but we can have a different perspective that we bring to the condition that empowers us to make the change that we so desire.
And I think that we take a lot for granted. So even us sitting here talking, or waking up in the morning and just breathing, and our connectedness to the plants, the sun, and all these things that provide oxygen for us, but we take something as basic as oxygen for granted, and we
Yeah, until
do it
yeah.
without even having to think about it.
Yeah, right. And oftentimes we do that because we just assume that it's supposed to be that way. It's going to be that way until it's not that way. And then we find ourselves saying like, oh wow, I really missed that. But having the mindfulness to really be grateful, like in terms of the sermon, in terms of dealing with the leopards, right? The 10, and then the nine that didn't come back, because sometimes you can have that sense of entitlement. It was supposed to happen. And it's perhaps it's something that I did to just bring this about without recognizing that you had help. And I think with us as a people, just being able to recognize that we've had help to get to where we are right now, and we have to be able to take time to say thank you, to show gratitude, um, not just as just something to just say like we just mouth these things that we're grateful, but in that sense of being grateful and having gratitude, then it should empower us to do something as a expression of our thankfulness for those who came before us and those who struggle with us now. And sometimes we can forget to do that. So we have to stop. And that's what I say, we have to be able to turn back and say thank you. Um, so that's what I was kind of looking at the Sankofa bird. It's like that ability to go back. That one went back to get something that was left. Which was that ability to go back and say thank you, to show that sense of gratitude, which is an energy. So can you imagine that one who went back, how that one was able to go back and tell others about what had transpired in his life, understanding that it wasn't just him alone. Certainly his faith was important, just as the faith of the nine was important, to leave from someplace where Jesus needed to touch them, needed provided a balm, just said go. And so they did go out on faith, which most of us have to do that too, like kind of step out on faith. And in the process of stepping out on faith, there is some transformation. But that's not the total story, right? That's the start of the transformation. But transformation had not been completed in those until they were able to deal with reciprocity, and to reciprocate and say, okay, no, hold up. The circle is unbroken until I go back and say thank you.
And as I listen to you talk now, what it brought to mind, and I think this would be applicable to how you just explained that Harriet Tubman escaped. She, according to history, she made 19 trips. And the very first trip, she could have said, "Hey, I'm free, I'm done." But something in her, and you talk about how gratitude can unleash, elevate our energy, and maybe even my words now, help us see power in us that we have that we may have never considered. But she went back 18 more times, did not get caught, and was successful at bringing people out. So that kind of fits, what you were just explaining about the need to be grateful and to go back.
Right, because the act of gratitude, her act of gratitude was to go back. That because she realized what had transpired in her life, that to say thank you to the creator, to say thank you to those who came before her, who freed others, right? Perhaps not as many as she did, but obviously she probably got, some inspiration not only from her biblical understanding of Moses and how that felt upon her, and how she was able to look at the liberation motif in that narrative, in that Exodus narrative, and say, okay, now I'm going to put myself in Moses' shoes and do the same thing for my people. So that sense of gratitude, again, it wasn't just like, oh, wow, I'm just grateful, I'm thankful that I'm free. But no, I'm grateful. And as a result of that, I now have to kind of like pay it forward, that I have to show my gratitude in action to my brothers and sisters in a real life live situation. And so you're absolutely right. And that's what it looks like in action, right? That gratitude ought to look like something in action, that it ought to be some internal transformation that has some external ramifications and impact. But we have to, like you said, we do have to take time, I think, to kind of like slow down and be reflective on what we had to be grateful for. And in some of my research is, that people would say, to have an attitude of gratitude means that you realize that what you have in your hand is enough. And with that you have in your hand, you're able to do for others. And part of what we did, like even in the church, is like looking at gratitude, 72 years of, our brand of ministry. That's not easy. But as a result of saying that we are grateful, we challenge our congregation to say, okay, for 72 years, let's this Thanksgiving to be thankful for what God has done for us. Let us show our gratitude by just say we're going to just raise enough money to give out 72 turkeys as a sign of gratitude in this time that we're living in, where people are struggling. We have each region has a food pantry that we do. That number went up to, like, I think at the end of the day, we were like at 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's no, we're not feeding the world, but we are making a difference where we are. And as a form of gratitude, we say what God has given us, we want to give back to God's people. So as a sign of gratitude.
For me, and you referenced you earlier in this conversation, you talked about how this system teaches us to operate a certain way, or maybe not to look at the things or see the things that we really should see. I'm just giving my interpretation. But the education that we get in this society and the Western Christianity that many of us embrace emphasizes individualism. It teaches us to fear failure, to fear God, to fear going to hell, and to accept things as they are with the anticipation of a reward in the great by and by. But for me, your message summons us to turn to our self-determination and agency, which could be the God within us, to simply operate in gratitude, which you strongly emphasize can elevate our consciousness. Why is that important?
Yeah, that's extremely important, and I like the way in which you frame that question, because when you look at Western Christianity and its ability to disempower um, the adherence to this brand of Christianity, it really just kind of like minimizes the impact that a person can have and the change that they could have, right? So to understand that you have within you the power to effect change, just like Jesus. I mean, he had the power to effect change. If we look at Jesus as a liberator, because in that text, I mean, they use the word master, but in this case, they're not talking about one who is teaching, but they're talking about one who has authority over situations, the ability to change things. And so if we're able to cling to the fact that we have agency, we have power, and that power dwells within, and a person can't take what they can't touch. So what's inside of us, they can't touch it, so they can't take it. We can give the agency away, but they can't take it from us. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that we have more power than we know if we focus on what we have rather than what we don't have and spend all that energy on what we don't have when we then don't have enough energy to put towards those things that we can indeed change. And there's so much we can change because our history bears witness that we can do a lot with a little when we understand that little is brought together in a collective rather than an individual. As an individual, I couldn't provide turkeys for everyone, but each person put in their little. You say, oh, that's just a little this, that's a little that. But that little makes a lot when we understand our ancestors took a little and made a lot. We didn't come with a lot of material possessions, but we came with a mind, with a mindset to do things and with skills and with talents. And so whatever you have in your hand, whatever you have at your possession, that's a gift from God. That's a gift from the Creator. That's an expression of our ancestors making itself known through you. Take those gifts, put it to bear on our situation. And I know without a doubt, things will get better because we're exercising gratitude in action.
Is that akin to, or maybe does that speak to the story of the widow's mite? I
Yes,
hope I
certainly.
got the story right.
Yes, certainly.
She
Yeah.
only had a little to give, but she gave it.
Yeah, that the widow's mite, the story of Hanukkah with just a little oil, is and it goes beyond that real quickly. It goes beyond that. It also speaks to the story about Jesus feeding the 5,000. I learned that it was an African interpretation of that experience, and we know it from the extent that we have the African retentions, right? And what I mean by that is that our parents told us, if you have something and it's not enough to give to everybody, don't bring it out. One would have to imagine that that little boy was the only person with a sandwich with something to eat because they all were out on this journey. So everybody had something, right? But
Mhm.
everybody thought that my something wasn't enough. So I'm not going to take mine out. But the African spin on it is that when Jesus took the little boys to lunch, they say the lads to lunch, the 2 fish and 5 loaves or whatever, when he took that, everybody else brought out what they had.
Mhm.
So then it was enough and to spare. Because anytime you bring your little bit, everybody bring that little bit. We always have more than we need. Like a potluck. Everybody brings something and we
Mhm.
have more than to spare. So to your point, we live in a society that breeds scarcity. So nobody wants to bring anything because they don't feel like it's enough.
Mhm.
But we try to change that with this attitude, this gratitude mindset that what I have to bring is enough to do what needs to be done. And so let me just work with my enough, give gratitude to the ancestors who laid the blueprint of what it means to take whatever you have and as a form of worship, as a form of gratitude, I give it for the betterment of the community. And we are better now. Certainly we have struggles, but we get to have these struggles because our ancestors struggled and showed us what it meant to live a life of gratitude and service to others.
Thank you so much for the presentation and for this opportunity for me to even get more enlightened and educated by the message that you presented.
Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you for the way in which you, again, facilitate the questions, which gives me greater insight. So, out of gratitude, I thank you, for being in this space and showing up the way that you do.
You're welcome.
What time is it? It's nation time.